Thank you for tuning in with us today. I am Sierra, the hostess of the mostest, and I have with me today Chelsea. And these stories that we will be telling with this new series, which is called We All Have a Story, are stories that are intimate to each person and not to be taped to re-traumatize anyone. These stories are stories of individual situations that have happened, and we're bringing awareness to these issues so that there might be some healing for each individual person. Also, to bring about awareness about the things that happen behind closed doors. So again, I'm Sierra Williams. I am a doula with the Minnesota Prison Doula Project, which as a doula, we support women during their pregnancy, during their childbirth, and then postnatal. And so I'm going to ask some questions of Chelsea today, and that's how we're going to start this, and then we'll have future guests as well. So, Chelsea, tell us about yourself.
Hello. My name is Chelsea. I'm 28 years old. I just gave birth to my first son back on Memorial Day, so that was pretty exciting. I also have an 11-year-old, and I'm from New Brighton, Minnesota.
All right, thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. So Chelsea, tell us, what do you do in your free time?
I really enjoy anything family oriented, whether it's barbecuing or just sitting and going up to my grandparents and hanging out with them, especially with my newborn, and kind of having that family time.
Yes, good.
I also like writing.
Writing? Yes. What type of writing?
I write spoken word.
Okay,
poetry.
Cool. And do you get out and have an opportunity to share your spoken word, or is that just something you do for yourself?
I do it more in an intimate setting, but I plan on getting out there and reading my poems, as far as hopefully being able to touch somebody with some of my poetry.
Awesome. That's good. So what do you do when you keep trying but you feel like you're failing?
I pray.
Pray.
I stay prayed up.
Yes.
I mean, some things you have to accept are out of your control, so why stress about it when ultimately it's in higher hands anyways, you know?
I do know. This I do know. Yes, we could talk about that all day too. Right. For real. Chelsea, what do you want out of life?
Oh, deep question. What do I want out of life? I definitely want to see my family thrive. I want to see my children prosper. I want to be able to leave a legacy with them that helps motivate them and keep them going throughout life once I'm gone.
Right.
And I also want to, do things that I love and be able to give back to the community and hopefully, make some type of impact in this world.
Right. And how could you see yourself making an impact on the community?
My voice. Using my voice, using my testimonies, my past, my stories to be able to hopefully help motivate someone else, to help someone else get through a hard time, to help someone else become a better person.
Right.
And that, to me, would be at least giving back in some way, whether it's one person or 1,000 people that I can positively impact or help encourage, motivate.
Right. And Chelsea, what would be your definition of happy? Happy. Happy.
My definition of happy would have to be not having any worries, in the sense that I'm confident where I'm at in life, as far as just within myself, having that self-peace with any situation, regardless if other people may agree with it or
Right.
not or understand it. not letting that affect me in any way, shape, or form.
Amen. Amen. All right. And if you had to think or say what would be your gift to this world, what would that be?
My gift to this world would have to be I think it's my addictive personality saying, if I was to walk in a room and you were having a bad day, or, just not feeling, not even feeling good or whatever, that I have that ability to lift people's spirits.
Right.
And to, be able to make people feel more positive, even if, I don't even have to know you. It's that aura. I think my aura is going to be my gift to the world.
Yes.
To sum it all up,
Makes
my
sense.
aura.
Makes sense. What do you do to advocate best for yourself? Or do you even know how to advocate for yourself?
I feel like what I do to best advocate for myself is that I don't hesitate to ask questions when I don't understand, or when I feel like something isn't sitting right.
Yes.
And again, that kind of goes back to my voice.
Right.
And using it. Because nobody else is going to speak up for you, and nobody else is going to get it done like you would get it done for yourself.
Right.
So
true. Advocacy is sometimes hard because it leaves us vulnerable.
Right.
But if it doesn't feel right, like you said, we have to speak up and speak out about it, because what do they used to say? No question is a dumb question.
Right.
And so if you feel like you just have something stinging in the bottom of your stomach that you just feel ain't right, you probably should ask, and don't leave it.
Itch.
Yeah, you probably should not leave that unanswered. What do you do to meditate when you need to get back to your inner peace, to touch what we know is God, but to bring yourself back down to a level playing field? What do you do to meditate?
Meditation to me would be breathing, having a serene area or environment, and writing.
Yes.
Me getting the pen and the paper, having that right setting, and breathing, as far as starting out breathing and just getting myself in that zone.
Right.
I feel like it's one of my best ways to meditate, outside of course praying, because I'll be stressed, and I'll sit down and I'll just pray, and I'll woosah.
Right.
And at the end of that prayer, at the end of that poem, I always feel relieved, like a form of my own, like, self-counseling in a sense.
Yes.
Self-meditation essentially.
Correct.
So.
When you go to God with everything, and we lay it on the table with Him, He says, "Leave your worries and your cares here. I got you. You're covered."
It's a sin to stress. You're not supposed to stress. He's got it. He's got it.
It's over. It's done.
Yeah.
Covered. Taken care of.
Amen.
In His hands.
Amen.
So we're gonna flip a little bit, and I want you to tell me about how you and I met. And you can go as deep into, or you can go as surface. But I want you to tell the world how you and I met, so they can know how we are acquainted.
Okay, fun. So we met because while I was incarcerated for the first time in my life, and pregnant, which I found out weeks into my sentence, that being pregnant, I was set up through the Women's Correction Workhouse, yes, to see a doula. And they, I remember it like it was yesterday, because I had this kind of persona in my head because I had already had such a negative experience while I had been there.
Right.
That they were setting me up with someone from the workhouse that was going to come in and try to talk to me. And at this point, it was at the end of my time as well that I wasn't going to be too open. I was kind of just going because it was in my schedule to go that day, and I didn't want to upset anybody as far as, pissing off any of the CEOs or anything like that.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to go to it. It shows I have this scheduled. And I was planning on that being the only visit. Like, I wasn't planning, I'm gonna tell this lady, I'm gonna be kind. I'm gonna be kind and courteous, It's not her fault, and just let her know that, I have things under wraps, and I'm not gonna be needing anything from her or any assistance or anything like that from her, or from you, essentially. So when I first went in there, we talked and stuff, and that was our introduction, and things definitely went, complete 360 from what I had told myself was going to happen.
Yeah.
Just because of what I found out through that first interaction and how you were more on my side versus just doing something because they scheduled you to do it.
Right. Because what you were in your thought process is that we were employed
through the workhouse.
Through the workhouse. Through the county.
The Department of Corrections.
And
yes.
we are, as doulas, we are contracted through the agency to come in and provide services to you guys, but they didn't tell you that part. So
Correct.
when I came in, I told you that part.
Yes.
And so it was a 360 because you and I meshed, or it was a 360 because of the conversation that you and I had?
Both. Every person has every person, you get a good vibe or a bad vibe from people. And once, after sitting in the room and talking to you and us conversing and me finding out more in depth what you did and who you worked for, and me also kind of opening up more as well as far as trusting you in that sense.
Right.
And then us meshing as well. All of that. I know I cried at the end of our first meeting because it was like
a sigh of relief.
It was a sigh of relief. It was because I felt like in that moment that here this person is that I actually feel like I can actually trust.
Right.
Versus, is this being recorded? Is this something that's going to be used against me? Because I've had a lot of things as far as since, having to deal with my case and going, being incarcerated that have been used against me that I would have never thought they would have, but that's kind of how, they're able to do things and make their stories,
stick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was a blessing in itself, and I feel like everything happens for a reason. I'm a woman of faith, and I'm glad I went that day. I'm glad I didn't, kind of tell them, hey, I'm not feeling too good today, reschedule it or whatever.
Right.
I got it done, and I'm definitely glad I did because it's been a life-changing experience, and I see us having a relationship,
forever.
Yes,
forever.
You're stuck with me.
Yeah,
so.
I'm happy to be stuck with you because you have been I've seen you grow in the time that I have met you. And in the initial visit, it was like you had a wall up, but rightfully so, because look where you were at.
Right.
If I were in the position of being an incarcerated woman who is holding a baby inside of my stomach, who is worried about what's gonna happen, the potentials of the unknown, I would be fearful of anybody walking in the room with me and saying, I'm here to help you.
Right.
Well, what are you here to help me do?
Right. Did I know myself?
Yeah. If you're not here to help me get out of here.
Which you were also able to help me.
Well, yeah, and we'll talk about that. But if you're not able to help me get out of here,
right,
then what are you really here to help me do? Because really, I don't want to be here.
Right.
I don't want to be here in this situation. And so.
And feeling like I shouldn't have even been in there
for
what
you were in there for. Exactly.
But, it is what it is. You definitely help kind of put things in perspective as well, as far as, me hearing out this, realizing the things that I actually, and even if it wasn't you, but a doula in general, and I had someone I was considering as well, but in the back of my head, I'm like, I got this. I'm going to do this myself. I've gone through this myself, but it is definitely good to have someone that's on your side and that, is able to answer questions or to, put you in contact with resources that you could actually utilize, because ultimately, I mean, it takes a village to raise a kid, and nobody really can do it on their like completely on their own. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
I'm still. We're still recording, so
Well, that's fine.
It's just the other podcast that we're recording with stopped, so we apologize.
Nothing but the devil, minor, slight difficulty there.
But this is true. So, anything else you want to say about?
No, I'm
the
just glad we had
interaction?
that first interaction.
Oh, I am too. Like I said, yours was a little bit different as far as the reluctancy, but I felt it, but at the same time, I understood. Like I said, and no pun was intended, and whether taken or whatever you decided after I walked out of that room, I was with your decision, and I respectfully respect every time. I walk into a space and I'm with a woman and she's like, well, I don't know about this. Well, okay, I don't
we
take offense,
know about this together, right?
And sometimes if I don't feel that it's a good fit, I may have to talk to the higher ups and say, hey, I don't think that this is a good client for me, and we want to make sure that we mesh, because your birth and your pregnancy matters, especially when you're in the space of incarceration.
Right.
I want it to be the best birth experience that it could be in those situations.
Right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So, how do people receive your story when you talk about your criminal history, whether that be employers, your landlords, county officials, family members, and friends? I want you to talk about all of them. How, when you talk about your story, and then we're going to talk about your story. So just give us an outlining of how you're perceived by everyone.
Well, I'll say the first reaction, as far as me not having a choice to, explain the situation and it being put on the news in a sense first, that I think that perception was a lot different because they're hearing it first as far as family and friends go. But I had a lot of people that were like, no, there's no way, no, that story's not true, or that story's not correct, which was completely true, because the story that had been put out through the media had been completely false, as far as the way they were able to put things together, and fabrications as well, as far as things that weren't true.
Right.
Now, even after that, and my parents, and I'll say my parents, my mom and my dad, they never once made me feel as if they weren't on my side. And they allowed me to, and my dad's like, I don't really care. How are you?
Right.
How are you feeling? As far as not even wanting to really hear, or just how are you as my daughter? How are you doing right now?
Right.
Type of thing. And since then, I've had their unconditional support through this whole process, and that's been absolutely amazing. And I've had family members that are kind of like, hey, cuz what happened? What is it true, or is that what is true and what isn't, type of thing. And I've had people that I've known for years that I don't, communicate with anymore because of it. And even within the jail system, when there was a lady that was kind of helping with resources and stuff, and she asked, she's like, okay, so what'd you do? And it's even kind of hard for me. I get choked up at times with even having to because it's like, am I really saying this? Is this really my life? Is
Right.
this really what I have to, now get used to explaining to employers each time, or if I'm looking for work or utilizing resources? Because I did take a plea for something that I don't feel like I should have, and I hate regretting things in life, because there's really nothing in life I can say I regret besides that. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't. So which one's gonna have the best outcome?
Right.
Versus, and that's one thing too, because then when people find out, oh, well, you actually served time, so that means you did it. And it's like, it doesn't mean you did it.
Right.
It means that you were given options and you decided to take what you felt would be the best option for your life. And I can't think about myself. I have to think about my daughter and, how that would affect her and now my son. Nonetheless, going back and, once I said my charge to the lady that was helping me, she kind of looked, she kind of double looked and was like, and she had looked it up because she had access to like our file or whatever, and she kind of looked at me twice and she was like, oh, well, yeah, that is kind of bad, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's like, it still hits me pretty hard when I think about it, but I know I'm not going to allow myself to be a victim of a charge because it doesn't define me.
Right.
But I also had an employer that I applied for that I didn't, and I've gotten in life, and I've been blessed, to have not messed up until I was 28 years old and be able to be employed, with any company that I applied for, and having a corporate job and, different privileges in a sense when you don't have something that's hindering you,
Right.
So to now have that hindrance is definitely, it's definitely a world of a lot different than what I've been used to, but it's not anything that I'm not going to get past. And because it's still so recent, I'm still learning and accepting people's reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's kind of like, their reaction is the same way I feel inside at the time too. Like, yeah, I know it's pretty bad,
Right.
But I mean, what do you do? And I mean, I have to tell myself the worst thing anybody could say from an employer aspect is no. And I have to
opportunity.
Exactly. I have to continue to apply myself. And my family's at the point of now it's kind of a thing in the past. It's not current in the sense that they still see me and I'm myself. And I feel like if I wasn't at the place that I'm at right now, just as far as not letting it hold me down, that maybe there would be more talk about it. But the fact that I have kind of overcome this hurdle and coming out on top in the sense that I'm still me and I'm still grinding and I'm still doing what I need to do to take care of my family and to remain sane, that it's kind of like you almost forget about it almost, until it's brought up again or something to that degree. But I mean, I think it's definitely an eye opener because again, when you first initially meet me too, and you're like, oh, this sweet girl, and then you find out she has a drive-by shooting charge, so it's like, whoa,
Right.
And then you probably have some people that, because I have tattoos or whatever, that they might be like, oh, well, maybe, you know what I mean? Because people pass judgment off any little thing. You have a piercing on your nose. Oh, well, so.
Being black.
Yes, exactly. Our skin color, it's so many different things that we're judged upon anyways. I can't allow that to, stop me from doing what I need to do.
And I'm so glad that you have that attitude because there's not many of us out here that do.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. Now, I want you to tell us about your story with the criminal justice system and what you want others to know.
My time in the workhouse, right?
I want you to talk about whatever you want us to know about the criminal justice system. You can talk about your charge. You can talk about your time spent in the workhouse. You can talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. We're here to listen.
I'll say that, it's never a fun time to catch a case or to, be fighting something that you didn't do. And it's nothing you can plan for, It's kind of one of those things where, it happens and you have to deal with it. And I will state that my situation having came from, or kind of, what's the word?
Evolved?
Yes, evolved from a domestic abuse relationship that I feel like a lot of that wasn't taken into consideration. And I feel like a lot of the things that I did, I thought to protect myself, ended up being used against me.
So you were in a domestic situation.
Correct. I was in a domestic abuse relationship where I had, filed
complaints.
Filed order for protections, and had those order for protections or no contact orders as well violated. It was an ex that broke into my home, pistol whipped me out of my sleep, and essentially had left after that. But then I found out he was living in my building, like in the next building or whatnot, and had been basically kind of stalking me. And I thought I was going crazy because I'm leaving and I'm seeing him like driving through my parking lot, just different things. And I did do what I had to do, which was, filing at that time when he broke into my home, filing the,
Order
he got
of protection.
yes, but essentially he was charged with with burglary for coming in without permission, and then the assault for
Pistol whipping.
Correct. So I felt like actually, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I thought everything was fine until the order for protection started being violated and he was still around. That I started worrying a little bit more.
So how was he violating the order of protection?
I'll go to the gas station and he can't be anywhere within a certain amount of feet from my residency, and he's at the gas station next to my apartments. Calling, sending texts.
And every time he did these things, would you report it to the police?
Yes.
And what would happen when you would report it to the police?
The one time he was picked up, he would be cited. And then the times, if he was picked up and they take him down, he's released the next day. And I mean, at that point, you start to think, well, what else do you do? Besides
Right.
hope that they follow up on their end of the bargain, which is holding him accountable before things get worse than they already were. And I will say that my experience with that, I kind of felt like, given the report and the things that had happened, that maybe it would have been taken a little more seriously. But I let everybody around me know what was going on, friends, family, and that's another thing that ended up being used against me. But dealing with that as far as the justice system and how long it took for them to actually hold him accountable. It happened in 16. He wasn't convicted until 18. And half that time he was still living in my apartment. There was nothing that, forced him to leave, or despite the numerous interactions. But spewing from that, something happened, something that ended up basically being assaulted. And because of our past, that I was looked at as somebody, and also, lies as well, I was looked at as somebody, as a suspect because of that, when ultimately everything that I did prior to that was to protect myself, as far as, calling the police and staying up with my advocate and making sure that, I knew the court dates and that things were being filed as they should, but everything was still getting, pushed out. So once the situation happened with him, and I was taken into custody for what happened to him, I do feel like because of that, and the fact I had a gun license because he had been shot at, because I had a gun license, because I was African American, because I have tattoos, that these things were used against me as far as them making me this suspect.
Building a case against you.
Correct. And even once finding out things like, okay, well, you didn't do the shooting, well, you had something to do with it, that once they had their eyes on me, there was no coming back from that. And that's one thing I feel like anybody that's been that has had to deal with the criminal case may be able to relate to.
Yeah.
Because again, once you're in their vision, they're set in stone, and it can be devastating because again, there's things, and then they'll put pressure on, you know, people around you to do things and say things that aren't true to help them. But again, you don't know until you're in a criminal situation, until you're in fighting a case, what things to be afraid of and what things not to, as far as the pressure that's put on you or people around you. And you don't know because you think that everything that they do is
in your best interest.
Right. And you think, hey, you know, they're police, they're, you know, they're the good guys or whatever. And that's not the case. And I gave up my phone, I gave up my keys, I turned in my firearms. Like, I did everything to show them that I didn't
Nothing
do it.
to lie about.
You know, and those are things that were used against me, you know? And that's a learning experience. And then as far as my time, or even starting out with the charge, and then like they amended my charges like a few days before court. And that was 2 years later. Again, I caught my charge in 2016, and I went to court for it in August of 2018. And at that time, you know, I mean, I fought it for 2 years and I was confident. And then it was like having that, then the plea came up the day of, and I was still, even though they amended my charges and changed it from, I think, drive-by shooting to 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, and then 1 count of drive-by shooting, and all aiding and abetting or whatever, that they, that I was like, dang, you know, that's kind of harsh. And
right.
They waited the 2 years to amend it. And, you know, my lawyer, you know, my attorney had said, because I'm like, so what are the, you know, there's 12 people that are going to have to all be on the same page, that don't know me, that may pass the same judgments as somebody that sees me because I had a relationship with somebody that had a criminal background or was kind of in the streets, that they would look at, maybe just say, oh, well, you know, she had something to do with it. She knew what was going on or something like that. Would they even hear out everything, all the facts of the case?
The truth.
Would they be focused on that, or would they kind of, you know, they might have their own stuff going on that day, or just anything. You don't know what are in people's mind, you know, and that was my biggest thing that I had to ponder on when I was given the plea and said, hey, this is guaranteed. No, you know what I mean? This is what you get versus this is what you could possibly get, and it wasn't 100% I was going to be found not guilty. And once they amended those charges versus having 1 charge, it was kind of like they almost know what they're doing, essentially, because they know what to do to make you sway one way versus the other. And I think once they realized that I was really taking it to trial, that they threw something else in there, and it worked. It did work because we didn't go to trial, and I did take the plea, which would mean that I would go to the workhouse as opposed to possibly being found guilty. And having to, I mean, you see people in jail every day for things that they didn't do. And that was my biggest fear, is that if I was, and then, you know, I think about that because I'm like, I should have just went to trial. But then if I did go and lost, having to fight a conviction from jail versus
On the outside
is it's
different.
Completely different.
It's way
you know?
different. Yes.
And I've never had a case in my life, and I've never been away from my daughter in her life. So to me, that was what I felt like was my best option. So I said what I had to say, and that was even, you know, because it's like what I wanted to say, I couldn't say because then the judge wouldn't have allowed the plea to go through.
Right.
So then it's almost like
your hands are, your life is in several other people's hands.
Yeah. And that's the worst feeling in the world, you know?
Right.
And again, just the thought of being away from my daughter, I'm just like, man, all right, so let me do what's going to at least help everybody out, in the sense, not help everybody out, but it's going to be easier on us,
right.
You know, on my
just
daughter, on my
done.
family, just to be done after 2 years. But there's so many people that do that, so many people that say they did something that they didn't do so that they don't have to possibly go to jail for something longer that they didn't do.
Right.
And then you have innocent people that are out for things that, you know, or people that did things that are out that shouldn't be. So it's kind of like, it's so
and in
corrupted.
a sense too, you know, we we as people, because I will say too, I have a criminal case that I didn't do either, and we'll talk about that one day. But you get in these situations where your back is up against the wall and you have no choice.
And they do that. They know what
they take away the rights of what you feel is all your rights. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to family, what I hear you say, which is most important to you, your values of family, getting back to your family is most important. Your feelings are, I have to get out of here. Right. And even though I know I didn't do this, because what you're saying is you didn't do it. Even though I know I didn't do this, these people are going to say I did it. And because they're going to say I did it, there's nothing else I can do to make my name clear. Because if I make even the slightest attempt to take this to trial, I know my life is going to be in the hands of these other people, and it ain't going to be in the hands of the right people.
Right. I mean,
and that's a hard pill to swallow. That's a hard pill to swallow. Regardless, though we know we have the highest of faiths, and we know that we can sit and thug it out behind them doors, them walls. But at reality, it's us that has to do that.
Right.
And so what you're saying is that you had no choice but to plead to a crime that you did not commit.
Correct. And that I feel like is injustice in itself. But it's like, I mean, there's so many of us.
There is.
And then once you take that time, or you take that plea and you serve whatever, whether it's probation, whether it's jail time, whether it's community service, there still may be hurdles
residuals
that you deal
you
with,
live with that for the rest of sometimes your life. You have to go up to employers and say, hey, I have this on my background. Or you have to go to, when you're applying for an apartment, you have to say, hey, this is on my background. Or if you go to school, you want to go further your education. Sometimes you won't get a loan.
Mm-hmm. Or you want to travel out of the country.
You want to travel out of the country.
Can't go to Canada,
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, your life is forever changed when it comes down to, I mean, a felony conviction, even misdemeanor, but a felony conviction is so, I mean, it's almost like it's a wrap, unless you have, the plug or have somebody where you're tied in and they either don't do the background check or they're not tripping,
or they look
or they
past
don't care.
that.
Yes.
Or you can create income for yourself.
Yeah.
Which I talk about all the time.
That is well, and that's a growing
mompreneur.
Yeah, and that's goals for me definitely because of this situation. I mean, I'm still not gonna let it stop me from getting out there and applying myself in the process of growing and being able to develop and build something up that is mine that I'm able to put out and as far as business or whatever. I want to write a book. I have my poetry I'm working on, but I have finances until then.
Yes. Well, which kind of moves into what I was going to ask next. Mm-hmm. Where are things with you right now in life? Where are you at in life with your children, with the criminal history, with next phases? Where are you?
I'm at a great place right now, just as far as just given birth to my son. And I mean, I was blessed to, be able to work and still maintain. So when I did finish my 7-month sentence, getting out the 1 month early on house arrest with your help. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And, being able to keep my place, I feel like God is so good because, I mean, even if things wouldn't have worked out the way that they did with me being able to keep my place I've been at for 6 years and being able to get employed, stay employed, and make it a smoother transition once I was out, that, I mean, I would have made the best out of it if it didn't work out the way that it did. Mm-hmm. But I'm at a much happier place with having, the things in place as far as, my residency, and my daughter's thriving. She's healthy. She hasn't had to miss a beat too much. thankfully because of her father. And
Yes.
he, you know, completely stepped up, and I'm so grateful for him and my parents as well, because they came together and, you know, they did everything the way that it was done to the best of their ability prior to me going.
Right.
That she didn't have to feel the wrath of me not being there, as far as her sports, her orchestra, her band.
Yes.
You know.
Oh, that's important.
And it is. And so I'm so blessed with that, and being back home. Now being on maternity leave, I'm a little nervous about getting back out there, because I mean, I can go back to where I was employed and serve as I've been doing, but I do want more for myself. I've accepted it, but again, it's just, I mean, it's a harsh reality, and with the conviction being still so recent, that a lot of times that looks even worse versus like a 10-year-old charge.
Yes.
And this is not even a year-old charge, so even though it's from 3 years ago.
Right.
I'm curious to see, you know, what kind of pushback I get from employers and how I'm able to overcome it. So I'm kind of looking at it as, you know, a challenge that I want, an obstacle that I want to overcome.
Yes.
And again, the worst thing I can tell myself, the worst thing they can tell me is what I tell myself is no.
No, right. And then
it's on to the next
opportunity.
you know?
Right.
And I attend a Harriet Tubman, I go to the Harriet Domestic
Center.
Abuse Victims class at the Harriet Tubman Center in Minneapolis, and that's been a source of relief as well, because I've built some friendships with women there that have expressed how I've impacted their life, and that to me is rewarding too, because just me being myself and telling my story, and to them it's like, you know, you come in, because I was still allowed to go to the groups during my incarceration, on top of working, beside the 3 months I had to do the straight time or whatever. But you know, they're just like, you come in here and you know they'll come in and they'll feel like their day is so bad, and then they're like, look at this girl that's pregnant and in jail, and she comes here and she still has such a great attitude, you know?
Right.
And that was really motivating for a lot of them, and me just, you know, me, myself, and motivating them. And again, like I said, that's been rewarding. So continuing to go to that. I have a lot in the works in my head, as far as like my poetry that I want to get together in a book, me writing a book about my story. And you know, some of the other things I have with holding people, places, and things accountable for things that have happened. I mean, it's a journey that I'm anxious to complete, but I'm currently in the process of. So, I mean, outside of that, I just got to stay prayed up, and I just know that everything is gonna come together. And then focusing on I mean, it's kind of hard to focus on myself right now with the newborn, and you know, my daughter in summer camp and all this stuff. You know, a mother's job is never done, but I have health concerns that I want to get looked at, like my back with falling when I was incarcerated or whatever. So that's something too. But yeah, I mean, I'm at a good place, and I know it'll only get better, you know, over time.
For sure. Well, it's all up from here.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Definitely.
We pray for that. Do you feel that you have the support you need from family and friends?
I do. And I've actually become a little more isolated. I've been isolated, but not as extroverted as I mean, I'm an extrovert. I am an extrovert, and I've become more introverted, which I don't think is a bad thing, because I mean, I'm a new mother and all that.
Yes.
But I just really haven't really wanted to be around people. You know what I mean? And I think, again, just refocusing and transitioning home is something I'm still kind of dealing with, and being gone for the time that I was, you grow to appreciate your family and the ones that were there for you. So it's kind of like all the hanging out and all that, like, it's a thing of the past for me in a sense at this point. I'd rather go to my parents' condo and hang out, go work out over there, or go up to my grandparents' house and just watch my grandmother interact with my son, and watch my daughter help my granddad with the wood. You know what I mean? Just
those
different
family
things.
times again.
Yes, because life is so precious, and life is so short that you never know when you could be taken, or even taken for a short time.
Or taken from you.
Exactly. Or even catching it, like, life changes in the blink of an eye.
It
So
does.
you gotta count your blessings and surround yourself around those that make you feel like the person that you know you are or that you can be, as far as
and you
pushing
have
you
to
and
be
stuff. So,
purposeful with your time.
yes, that
No
is
matter who they are to
Right.
you. You need to be intentional about the things that you do, because if we're not intentional, we're spending time on negativity, things that don't matter, things that are not going to cause us to elevate, things that are going to cause us to be in spaces with people that don't mean us no good.
Yeah.
And then that puts us in vulnerable situations and with vulnerable happenings, and we don't want to be in those spaces, because then it recreates the same cycles of the same stuff.
Yeah. I need
And
that energy match.
exactly. If it's not for us, we don't need none of that.
If it's not for us, it's against us.
Definitely
and that's almost
against
what
us.
you got to tell yourself.
Definitely.
Because it can be easy to succumb to what's around you,
Yes.
as far as not even realizing that your
Right.
tone is changing because this person, you know
Right,
what I mean? And
right.
that's
It's
where,
just like this, if you think about it. When you're in the car and you're driving, and if somebody cuts you off, right?
you almost want to cut
You
them
want
right
to, you do. Let's be real. We want to cut them
Right,
off,
hold on
right?
now,
Or
okay.
or we're pissed.
Right.
We're pissed off because they just cut us off. But then we take that same energy, and if we're on our way home, we walk in the house with that energy.
Yep.
And then we give it to our kids.
Right.
Or we give it to our spouses. And then our spouses, then they give it to their friends or whoever
It's
they're in. It's
contagious.
contagious. Same thing if we go to our workspaces. If we just got cut off on the highway, we're gonna take
we
it
go
to
to
work.
and be irritated at work. Like,
Irritated.
deal with these people
Instead
today.
of us dealing with it like, okay, they just cut us off.
Right. Or you know what? Clearly
Who
they
knows? Right.
they got
That's
somewhere they gotta
your
get
own
to.
stuff to deal with.
Right.
Let
gotta
them
stay
be
focused on-
focused
yeah,
on
exactly.
you. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
Maybe my hand was down here.
Right.
Maybe I was zoned off.
Right.
Maybe that person was off to a birth.
Right.
Maybe they were off to a death.
Right. You
Maybe
never know.
their head was in the clouds. I
Right.
don't know. But okay, they cut us off, but they didn't hit us.
Right. You got
You
bigger
know,
fish to fry.
we got bigger fish to fry, so let it go.
Right.
Just let it go.
Now, one thing
not
I
worth it.
can't let go. No, I'm just kidding. I just thought about it. Going back to your question, I don't even know if we can double back like this, but to what I want people to know too.
Yes.
Because I didn't talk about being in, accepting that plea, taking that time, and going to my time to serve my time. As far as being incarcerated, finding out I'm pregnant. I'm epileptic, so I did have my medical cannabis license, which wasn't honored at the workhouse because it's not federally mandated. Okay, cool. Y'all won't allow me to have my THC or my CBD. Okay. So we need to supplement that with something else. I've been epileptic my whole life. So they had me off my epilepsy medication for 17 days. At one time, throughout that 17 days, I was allowed to leave the facility to go to my Harriet Tubman group, unmedicated. Thank God I didn't have a seizure to or from, but these are the things that weren't taken into consideration while being pregnant, as far as allowing me to leave the facility. And then being in the facility and not being on any medication because I was pregnant. I mean, it's crazy to have to, I had to advocate for myself, but it's like, I'm literally begging, like, I'm telling them, like, y'all have to give me something. Like, it's worse for me to have a seizure being pregnant. It's worse for my unborn fetus because they're not getting any oxygen during the time that I'm seizing.
Right.
That y'all need to give me something. And it went on deaf ears. It really did. And from their medical person's perspective, the seizure medication could harm the fetus. But nobody's hearing me out. Like, I know there's pregnancy-safe medications.
Which would have been what you were already
Which is
on.
what I was given to restart once I went to the emergency room after I fell. So mind you, not only that, there was nothing, and this is something I feel like should be in place. If you're epileptic or you have some type of condition where you shouldn't be on stairs, or you shouldn't, mind you, I've been epileptic my whole life, and I've never had a seizure on stairs before. And I mean, I've never had, I still get stuff done. I never tell myself, oh, I'm epileptic, I can't go on those stairs, because I've always had something, I'm taking, I don't
You're
have to worry
always
about it.
medicated.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're in jail all day. And this is when I was doing straight time because my work release got taken because I dropped a dirty UA from my medical cannabis, which I had my license for, which was in my record, but not honored. So another way they want to try to just break you down because I'm productive, I'm working every single day, I'm leaving and going to work. And they found like the one thing to try to use against me as far as my dirt. It wasn't, it's for something I'm.
Right, it's not a dirty UA just because you want to go smoke
because I'm
cannabis.
abusing, yes, exactly.
It's because you are an
It's a
epileptic
medication.
woman and
Correct.
you need it to not have seizures.
So hey, I accepted that. And I mean, what else do you do? So I do. I was doing these little walks because I'm like, I have to do something. I'm not just gonna sit here. And the way that they had the stairs went up. You had your roller cells up there, and it came down. So I had my little routine. I was doing it for days. So, I mean, guards were seeing me. That it wasn't anything that was, I had been told about, hey, don't do this, whatever. And so I was doing my little exercise routine, I'll call it. It was literally just walking so that I'm not just sitting there during our out time, our free time or whatever.
Right.
And I had a seizure. I fell down 13 flights of cement stairs.
13 flights.
Or 13 steps. A flight of 13 metal steps.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. And I'll say that was the scariest thing because not only being in an uncomfortable situation as far as being in jail, not remembering, I remember being at the top of the stairs and I remember waking up in excruciating pain and not being able to feel my feet and just screaming.
And how far along were you?
I was 2 months at that time, and I was taken to HCMC, and once I told them, because it was almost like this was the inevitable, like here I'm telling y'all, and I feel like maybe they're thinking I'm like
lying.
I'm not even that or that I'm over exaggerating the situation, but I'm really scared for myself because
Right.
I've
And your
had
baby.
these seizures and I know, so it's like, and then I start to think about things, okay, well maybe I shouldn't have been on the stairs, but mind you, they had put me in a top cell at one point and moved me down. They never explained why. After I fell, they were like, things were said as far as, well, you shouldn't have been on this, I shouldn't have been on the stairs, and maybe y'all, if that's how you guys felt or knew I was vulnerable, especially because I wasn't on meds, because I guess even on meds, they don't want us on this, they don't want, people can do that in the jail, but if you're epileptic, they don't want you to.
Right.
There's nothing I signed that said, you're gonna be on a lower bunk because of this, you will always be on a lower bed in that cell because of this, or we don't want you on the stairs. As far as, I guess it could have possibly been avoided, but it could have also been avoided had they given me my medication. So once I went to the emergency room, they were flabbergasted because they're like, what do you mean you're epileptic, you're incarcerated and you're not on any meds and you're pregnant? They put me on the Keppra. They said, this is the safest medication for you while you're pregnant. Mm-hmm. The jail then reinstated that prescription and I was allowed to take the Keppra. But it was after 17 days of being unmedicated, falling down a flight of stairs and having it ordered from the jail. So that, I think, speaks for itself as far as an example of ways that your medical conditions are ignored or can be ignored while you're, like I know I took a plea for something and it basically says that I'm a criminal
That has
or
nothing to
that
do
I've
with
committed a crime, but that doesn't mean
that you're not an animal. And even if you were an animal, we know they have harsh penalties for people who abuse animals.
Right.
And that should have never happened.
And
I've said it to you numerous times.
Yeah.
And many a times.
But go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I mean, God is so good though, because then, it's just the way I think, because I tell myself like, it could have been way worse. Like I'm blessed that I just have, lower lumbar issues and back spasms or whatever and night terrors from falling, but I could have broke my neck. I could have lost. I was bleeding for a couple days after, and I thank God I didn't lose my son.
Right.
And that's my little fighter, and that's why I'm just like, everything happens for a reason. It wasn't meant for it to be harsher, but it was meant to happen at the same time too.
Right.
And that's where I have, for what though? Like why? And at that point when it happened, I'm like, God, what are you trying to show me right now?
And it
Because
may
I
not have
to
been
accept
for
that
you
it
to be
happened.
shown.
Right,
It could be for them to be shown.
Right.
And it everything that happens doesn't mean that it's for our testimony to be told for someone else for us to be worried about what is it for us to show us.
Right.
It's not about us sometimes.
You're right.
We have to step out of the way of things.
Our struggles
And
are put in place
to teach other people that things aren't right and awareness needs to happen.
No, you're right.
So
You're right.
step out of your way and your guilt, because what you did was what you were supposed to be doing, and that was being in that space because they gave you that time to be there.
Right.
So ain't no beating up on
Yeah,
Chelsea,
no,
because it ain't Chelsea's fault.
I'm past it, but it's like, how can this really? But if it happened to me, I know it's happening to other people as well, along with people getting the wrong medications and not like it goes on deaf ears there because they can almost do no wrong. What they say goes type of thing, and then even after that, the appointments and the scheduling, and it's so unorganized because it's like the head isn't connected to the body, that their medical team isn't part of the adult corrections, that they are not on the same page with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So I'm missing doctor's appointments. I'm getting referrals and getting doctor's notes for things that they're not honoring. I'm 6 months pregnant at that point, as far as when I was 6 months pregnant. And I mean, any woman that's pregnant is going to consume more food because they're eating for 2 people. You don't get extra food.
Well, you guys get what? Crackers and
we get peanut
butter,
peanut butter pack and crackers.
Right.
At night, throughout the day, you're not allowed to you don't get extra fruit. You don't get a fruit bag. Like, okay, I understand y'all don't want to give us more scoops of food. Whatever. Hey, save the food. But what about fruit? What about, being able to take milk back to be able to bring fruit back from lunch that maybe I didn't eat because I want to save it for later because I know I'm going to be hungry and you guys aren't going to give me anything. Not even, you know what I mean? So it's like there was one CO there, and bless her heart, because when she worked, she would make sure we got a bag at night, like with cereal in it. She was the only one. And in my head, it's just like, I love her for that because she didn't have to.
Right.
And if we asked a different CO or whatever,
no.
As far as any of the pregnant girls there, we wouldn't get it. So it would be like we would just
wait for her to come.
And they'll say, oh, you guys can order canteen and things like that. But at the same time, it's like the things in canteen are like
unhealthy.
Donuts, chips, right? Like you're not getting
diabetes.
Fresh fruit. You're not getting,
around the corner.
It was just, to me, that didn't make any sense either because
mm-hmm.
it seems, unjust, especially when you're pregnant and you have a reason why you would be more
everybody
hungry.
Doesn't have somebody putting money on their books.
And everybody doesn't get to, and then I got my work privileges back from the judge once I went to court and they reinstated my work release. I was able to eat at that point because I'm getting my own food when I leave. But what about the girls that are in there that aren't?
Release,
you know what I mean? That are hungry, that are growing, developing, pregnant women, their babies growing, and it's ignored. It's the worst feeling ever. But I just hope to shed light on some of that because, like I said, outside of that food thing, missing appointments that I needed and things like that, it's just, it's things that I did document and, something that I'll work on type of thing. But it's like, I don't feel like anybody should have to go through that. And if I can be that voice to help ensure that it doesn't, or that there's light brought to the situation, like, I'm glad then there's positive that came from this negative experience.
Exactly.
So, but that was another thing I wanted.
I'm glad you got that off.
So
thank you.
Off my chest.
Hey, thank you, girl. What is your motivation and intentions for this project that we're starting with Everybody Has a Story?
My motivation would definitely be, example, like I just said. What motivates me are the struggles I've gone through, and wanting to turn those struggles into something positive, as far as being able to help someone else not go through it. Or to shed some light so that change can happen, good change.
Yes.
And from there, it can only get better as far as the areas and, the outlets that we're able to reach.
Yes.
With telling our stories and being able to give back with our voice.
Right. What does acceptance and equality mean to you?
No judgment.
Powerful.
Yeah, I mean,
I felt that.
I love people. Like, I love people. I do. And like I said, I'm an extrovert, so I've always fed off other people's energy. But regardless of the sex, the race, the color, the orientation, whatever, that ultimately, if all that was taken, like, we're all bone, like, we all got blood, we all have the same white bones, like,
Put
this
our
is nothing
pants
but
on the same way.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not right to put people on a different pedestal, or standard because of something, you know what I mean? We should just all love each other and all want to try to help see people succeed,
I feel it.
So yeah, I think no judgment is to me what equality and acceptance is.
Hey, I like that. Mm-hmm. And the last question of today is, what is success to Chelsea?
What is success? Success to me would be setting goals and accomplishing them while overcoming hurdles along the way and still coming out on top.
Hey.
I mean,
let that sink in. Wow.
So just, following through with what you set your mind to, and regardless of what, the devil is what it's called, but
call it what it is.
Regardless of what gets in your way, not stopping and letting that struggle win, but overcoming it and becoming a better you at the end of the day once you've completed it. Because it's a great feeling, but I think a lot of us, it's easy for us to stop midway, which is where we don't succeed.
Yes.
Or don't feel like we succeeded because we stopped, versus kind of refocusing yourself and still climbing to the top.
Because sometimes we can be our own worst critics, and we hold ourselves back from the next level because we get scared. And if you lean on the faith of the promises of what God says, is that He has you entirely, no matter what the circumstance or the situation is. I got you. I got you.
Yep.
He says it all the time.
Yep.
Just know that I'm there. Every place you go, I'm there with you, no matter what the circumstance or the situation is. Well, we'd like to thank you guys for tuning in with us today. You can reach us for questions or comments, or if you're interested in
you want to know
coming
more,
want to know more, or coming on the show, you can reach me at sierrasparkleshop@gmail.com. That's SIERRA. I gotta put this again. SIERRASSPARKLE shop.com. And we will be doing another show in the next couple of weeks, so you can tune in with us again. But we really appreciate your time today, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything that you have shared with us today. Again, nothing that we talked about today was to invent the hurt or the pain that you experienced, but more so to give awareness about the things that you experienced behind the walls. And that was just a smidget. It wasn't even in depth. And so we know that you'll continuously be a part of working with ReEntry Matters, which we have an event coming up this Saturday, and the Minnesota Prison Doula Project, and seeing you thrive and grow and flourish and be a pillar in the community and bring about change. And
this won't be the last time you'll be seeing or hearing from me, so just remember that.
Exactly. So again, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and
You're
thank you
welcome.
to everybody that's listening and
watching. Yes, we love you guys.